What follows is a video about the tabletop role-playing game Blades in the Dark, written and created by John Harper and published by Evil Hat Publishing. All art is used with permission by John Harper.
Take a minute and imagine the world of your favorite tabletop game. I bet it's a mystical, fantastical affair. Gleaming castles towering above idyllic forest glens. Are there addle-brained wizards and bold questing knights? Unicorns and fairies? Orcs and goblins? Well, the setting behind Blades in the Dark looked something like all that about a millennia ago, until a cataclysm befell the Shattered Isles, plunging them in never-ending darkness, and leaving their last sparks of magic as burnt out as the splintered embers of their sun.
Welcome to the Nerdy Breakdown. Tonight, we'll be your ghostly hosts. As Blades in the Dark, we only go by our aliases, so that none of us can point the law our way. So in that spirit, I'll be Loon.
And I'll be Cuckoo.
Today, we're going to lead you through the Shattered Isles and their dark crowning jewel, the city of Dothball, where blades lurk in the dark.
As we've said, this was once a storybook fantasy world of magic and wonders, destroyed by cataclysm and reborn into industrial dystopia from its ashes. The Shattered Isles that make up what remains of this world are all wildly different, thanks to the magical forces left over from the cataclysm. On top of that, the void sea that spans between them isn't just water anymore. It seems to be composed of an opaque black ink, dotted with constellations of baffling, shimmering stars far below its surface.
First, we'll be discussing the Isle of Severos, a mysterious land of nomads, free tribes, and windswept plains. Third largest in its size, with 5 cities dotting its land, connected by the Imperial Rail. This is a hardy place, full of hardy people, scavenging the Deathlands on their ghost-hunting horses.
Wow, Loon, this land really draws me in with the imagery of these nomadic tribes riding through the thorny brush on horseback and ruthlessly hunting down ghosts. It gives off these strong steppe culture, hunter-warrior vibes, and I especially wonder, with the phrasing of the book, ghost hunting horses. Is it the horsemen who are doing the hunting, or do their horses have a nose for ghosts themselves?
Yeah, I agree completely, Cuckoo. It's super fascinating. I feel like a lot of the Severosi people are probably natural whisperer and hounds, so it's probably a combination of both. Whisper and hounds being playbooks from Blades in the Dark, or classes, if you will. I imagine they excel at using the attune and hunt skills. I bet even without their ghost hunting horses, which I'll touch on in just a second, they are more than capable of handling a variety of very dangerous situations, whether it's through attuning to the ghost field or even performing rituals to ward themselves against possession. As for their horses and their ability to hunt spirits, this reminds me very much of one of the hound's special abilities, which is quite literally called Ghost Hunter. It allows the hound to imbue his hunting pet with spirit energy in order to give it special abilities and potency against spirits. This is exactly what I imagine the Severosi ghost hunters do.
Now that you mention it, it really brings up the thought of the Silver Nails. And I know we're not really getting into factions right now, but these guys, they're a company of Severosi mercenaries who fought for the Empire in the Unity War. And they're renowned ghost killers, but we know that they have this contingent of exquisite Severosian cavalry horses, which are fearless, swift, and trained to hunt and battle spirits. They even carry arcane lances. So there's just a whole lot to work with in terms of Severos for role-playing your character and designing interesting NPCs and factions. Another of the larger Shattered Isles is Aruvia. Aruvia is an oppressively hot land of shifting black sands, raging volcanic activity, and towering obsidian mountains, dotted with just a handful of habitable cities. It's a hellish environment to survive in, so it's no wonder that a lot of rumors claim that demons openly hold positions of power in Aruvia.
Interesting. So we're really seeing a difference in climate from locale to locale as we travel through the Shattered Isles. It's almost a miracle anybody even lives in Aruvia. But despite that, the Aruvian nobility is worming its way into our game's main setting, the city of Dustfall and its power structure. Aruvia's culture itself is also finding its way into Dustfall. Isn't that right, Cuckoo?
I'd say so, Loon. Aruvian is the third most spoken language in Dustfall. In Charter Hall, students discuss Aruvian politics. In Brightstone, wealthy patrons trade in Aruvian silks and spices. The College of Imperial Science even has a course on Aruvian studies. Not to mention that the Red Sashes, who are mostly of Aruvian descent, established their own academy that teaches Aruvian sword artistry, like the Falling Star style. With the thought of demons at the helm in Aruvia, it's easy to question how much of this is innocent cultural exchange and how much is a demonic power grab.
Next, we travel to the dense green archipelago of the Dagger Isles, a land shrouded in jungle grown twisted and dark from the strange magics of the Cataclysm. Most people from this area are known as merchants and corsairs and spend most of their lives either wandering or on boats. Some say people here even live without lightning barriers.
So we haven't talked about them too much yet, but these lightning barriers, powered by refined Leviathan blood, are actually the first and main line of defense for most cities in the Shattered Isles. It effectively acts as a wall that malevolent spirits and demons cannot easily pass. Nearly every population center in the Isles erected barriers like these 300 years ago, so it really raises some intriguing questions about how the Dagger Islanders can go without them.
Yeah, so this place kind of feels like a land of swashbuckling pirates and traveling merchants, with nobody really settling in one place for very long. Maybe that's one of their defenses against ghosts and not having lightning barriers. I really think it leaves a lot of room for interpretation on both part of the player and the GM to decide how Dagger Islanders either avoid or confront ghosts in the world of Blades in the Dark.
Moving from the tropical south to the freezing north of the Shattered Isles, we arrive at the rough and ragged land of Scotland. The whole nation is a harsh, wintry tundra, dominated by fluffy snowdrifts and jagged mountains. Scotlanders themselves are a proud, brutal lot, and as such, they ended up being the last holdouts against Imperial control. Nowadays, the Scotlander city of Lockport refines 90% of the demon blood siphoned by Leviathan hunter ships out of Doskville.
So it's interesting you bring up Leviathan blood processing. When the Imperium moved 90% of this processing to the northern town of Lockport in Scotland, the citizenry objected harshly and insisted they were not subject to unilateral Imperial decree. This resulted in the Unity War. During this war, 2,000 Scotlanders would flee their war-torn homeland and make for the closest port, Doskville.
That's right, Lone. And as those Scotlander refugees swell the city's population, the bigotry of the local Duskers is starting to surface. You might see signs like "No Scavs need apply" or "Scavs get out" on public houses and storefronts. Needless to say, this has raised racial tensions in the city to a boiling point, especially with hot-headed young Scotlanders like Ulf Ironborn seeking to carve out his own vengeful criminal enterprise in the city's streets.
For the next to last isle on our trip, we travel north, even further north than Scotland, to a near mythical place, Tycheros. Far beyond the Void Sea, this is a land of strange people with demon-like heritage.
We don't really know a lot about this distant land, as there's not much at all about it featured in the books. We do know that Tycherosi all seem to display some subtle manifestation of their demonic blood, whether it's jet black shark-like eyes, feathers instead of hair, small horns upon their head, or even the body of a serpent from the waist down.
Yeah, Cuckoo really nailed it here. There's not a lot of information presented to us for Tycheros. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. This leaves a lot of freedom for you as the GM or player to come up with your own ideas.
Finally, we come to the seat of Imperial power, Akaros. The Imperium originated in this landmass, and as such, Akarosi are unsurprisingly often called Imperials. Akaros flourishes with wealthy coastal cities that earned their riches from Leviathan hunting and exploitative mining colonies deeper inland. The rest of the countryside is flecked with dark, petrified forests and steep, rocky hills. On top of all that, Akaros is the highlight of our tale today, because it features the bustling city of Duskfall, in which Blades in the Dark is set.
The city of Duskfall is a millennia old, established before the cataclysm that struck the Sundark. It was a coal mining settlement in its inception, and it has survived the destruction of everything. A Leviathan's angry attack, a devastating fire, plague, war, and ghosts innumerable. If anything, Doskers are survivors. Limited in its expansion by the ring of massive lightning barriers that protect it from the Deathlands and the ghosts that inhabit it, the city expands upwards, ever upwards. Every square foot covered in some sort of human construction, the city is a sprawling maze of canals and streets, and then covered in mansions, row houses, vice dens, and buildings of every conceivable nature. Space here is at a real premium indeed.
And yet, that space would go to waste if not for the harvest and refinement of demon blood. Electroplasm, the product of this process, is the linchpin of Imperial industry. Duskfall's lightning barriers operate using electroplasm, but so do its streetlights, factories, its academic experiments, its vehicles, and just about everything else. But from where does this liquid energy originate? Great metal steamships known as Leviathan hunters journey out of Duskfall, braving the far northern reaches of the Void Sea to grapple with titanic demons of the depths and extract their precious immortal blood. It is by the sheer fortune of Leviathan hunter crews and the bounties of blood they capture that drive the wax and wane of imperial wealth. Akarosi nobility all own their own hunter ships, positioning themselves to profit from this bloody enterprise upon which so many depend, and in so doing, establish Duskfall as a financial, political, and cultural beacon for this dark world. Now, there's so much more to discuss about Duskfall. Its history, its languages, its culture, cuisine and entertainment, authorities and street gangs. Each individual neighborhood has a unique feel all its own, not to mention the various landmarks and factions that dominate their streets. We couldn't possibly fit all that into one video, so I think for now, this is goodbye. This has been Cuckoo.
This has been Loon.
Please feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, share it with your friends, and stay tuned for more of the Nerdy Breakdown.